So I know this one's been a little long in the making, but every year the prepper or tactical comms world comes out with another game changer, some sort of device promising precision, power, and basically the new perfection. But most times they come out and they're all bark and no bite. So this is the Baofeng DM32UV. It's got GPS, APRS, dual time slots, and 50,000 digital contacts, and it costs less than a pair of AirPods. Baofeng has a reputation. Some say it's the fast food, or probably more appropriately, the gateway drug of ham radio. Cheap, ubiquitous, questionable build quality, but this one's not perfect, but it's definitely a little different. So I've been running the DM32UV hard for the past 2 months in some brutally harsh environments. Usually mounted front and center in my chest harness. It was exposed to everything, revolving around a 16-hour shift in thick smoke, relentless dust, and yes, even days of rain. It definitely took a few hits and got knocked around. And due to working your heavy machinery, it was cranked to the max volume the entire time with near constant traffic coming through. And honestly, full disclosure right up front, I'm impressed. It held up, performed flawlessly. The IP45 rating wasn't just a spec sheet number. It was stress tested in the real world, and it passed with flying colors. So let's dive into it. So inside the box, you almost get everything you need. I'm going to start with this belt clip. This is light years better than the nylon pouch thing that I got when I mentioned what came with the analog only version, the UV32, but this is definitely not the same as a Motorola OEM belt clip. It looks like it, and granted, this entire package costs as much as the Motorola belt clip itself, and I acknowledge that. I just like to point out that you can feel that this is just a lighter, thinner, flimsier, and not nearly as secure device compared to that which comes with a regular Apex. The other thing, though, it also does come with a USB-C charging cable. It also comes with the antenna and a screen that when this is on, it doesn't look like it came from a 2003 Nokia. The one thing I don't like is that it doesn't come with a programming cable, because you can't just use any cable. In fact, if you are looking at getting one, you probably want the one from Baofeng that uses the FDTI chip. It's more reliable and fewer driver issues. With that one, it's usually plug and play with most Windows PCs. I'm using the one that I got from RT Systems, which I did when I programmed the UV32, that same programming cable, and it has worked without any issues at all. As far as the features on this thing go, in all reality, no matter what radio you're comparing it to, this thing comes stacked. It supports dual mode, DMR, and analog, Tier 1 and Tier 2 support. And if you aren't completely familiar with what Tier 1 and Tier 2 means, DMR Tier 1 is like your entry-level license-free tier that was designed for hobbyists and recreational users. And that was just to provide short-range, low-power communications. And really, they're operating just in the 446 megahertz band. There's no license, so it's kind of free to use, has a max power output of 0.5 watts, and supports direct radio-to-radio communications, so simplex, as in no repeaters. And it also just offers just basic digital voice services, no encryption, no GPS, or advanced data features. Now, your Tier 2 DMR, this is the real workhorse. This is what's designed for your amateur radio operators as well as your commercial and professional users. And this operates on the licensed VHF from 136 to 174 megahertz, as well as the UHF 403 to 527 megahertz bands, and supports wide area communications with the utilization and incorporation of repeaters. It uses TDMA, which is time division multiple access, 2 time slots per 12.5 kilohertz channel, and this enables simultaneous voice and data and group calling and text messaging and encryption. And it's also compatible with IP connected repeaters. So one of the features that this radio is advertised in having is a fall detection alarm. And I think that would be a really cool feature that is underutilized in the majority of HTs and not talked about enough. And basically what they advertise this thing to do is they say that this radio is equipped with an accelerometer, base sensor that monitors sudden changes in movement or the radio's orientation. And if the radio detects a rapid fall or impact, it would trigger an automatic alert. And they go on to further say that this alert can be configured basically to notify a preset, DMR contact, or even do some sort of messaging through APRS, which is your automatic packet reporting system, depending on how you have it set up. And as far as how it's supposed to send the alerts, it would send a digital message to either an individual or your team or your network, indicating that it detected a fall event. And you could even have it include the GPS coordinates if your location and tracking is enabled. And you can also have it just trigger an audible alarm on the device itself to attract nearby attention. Now, as far as this goes, I looked through all of this radio's menus, all of the menus in the programming software. I could not find anything remotely close to a fall detection alarm. If you have gone through this and have happened to find that, please let me and everybody else know in the comments where that is. Because again, I think that could be a valuable tool to have and utilize, especially, depending on what you're doing with the radio. But I couldn't find where that is in this radio. If it happens to be buried in the menu somewhere, please let me know that. And one of the features that I did find, which again, I don't think is talked about enough, is their lone worker system. And that alert system I see being utilized for anybody that would be out solo hiking or doing some sort of off-grid expedition or any sort of emergency responder. We have a system kind of like it on my work radios on the Apex 7000s. But, where I was in the wilderness environments out in the middle of nowhere for the last 2 months, I think it would have been a huge help there. And it's their lone worker menu. And I'm going to do a demo and show you how that works here in a minute. But as far as the output of this radio goes, there are plenty of videos out there of guys doing bench tests on these things and getting various results. But from everything that I saw, around 8 watts is what you can expect to get out of this. And we know the power output, anywhere between 5 watts and 10 watts doesn't really much matter. So anywhere in that realm is more than acceptable. So getting into the menus of the radio, obviously, if we press the menu button or the OK button, the first one we come to is the scan menu. When you access this, yes, the first thing there is scan switch. You can press this, and this would basically allow you to turn your channel scan on or off. Very easy. It gives you that ability, but it also allows you to choose what you want it to scan. So next thing you come to is the scan list, and this can just be from a list that you have set up. And you can see you can put as many of those in here as you want. Usually you're doing that from the CPS, but you can also set it up on the radio. Another nice feature is to be able to scan different PL tones, or then just below that, be able to scan different digital PL tones. And then finally, if you have anything in your memory that you want to scan, you can go ahead and easily scan that. Now, just below scan, as you can see, that menu is pretty robust. Again, it's much more than just turning scan on and off. But just below that, you see we have zone. Now, you know that I favor any radio that doesn't just want to give you 1,000 channels in your radio and expect you to try to navigate them efficiently. And this is where, or what I consider appropriate organization. And it begins to let you quickly access and separate zones that you have, allowing you to navigate your channels and frequencies quickly and easily. So the function demo is what Baofeng has programmed on here. And as you can see, you can come in here, you can select that zone, and then you can kind of just cycle through all the stuff that they had pre-programmed in here. And also, as you can see, I have our rant zone programmed in, as well as a bank of ham channels. So very easy. You can even add zones just from the menu screen. This is huge, super intuitive, and very easy to use. Now, just below that, getting into the settings of the radio, first screen, radio settings, you come in here, voice functions. This allows you to get into anything that has to do with basically the radio making noise. So radio silent, I have off because certain things I do want it to make noise on. Battery low, that's an important, your low battery alarm, that I want that to make a noise to let me know, hey, something's going on. Your key tones, obviously every key that you press, if you don't want it beeping, obviously I don't, I have that one turned off. Your SMS prompt, if you're going to be doing text messaging on your radio, we'll get into that in a little bit. That I like having on, just, let you know, hey, you've received a text message. If you're doing group calls on digital, private calls on digital, if you're going to, when the call ends, if you want that. The talk permit tone, I also like this. I'm big on one that I don't want to key up over anybody, or if the channel's not clear, I don't want it to make it sound like it's clear. So I like keeping the talk permit tone on. There's your startup sound, the voice prompts. We know from traditional being Baofeng users, the lady that would walk you through the menu options and whatnot, and everything that you turn on or off gets very annoying. So I have the voice prompts off. Your analog Roger beep, you can have off. You can set it to the traditional, two-tone tone that it would do, or like a fake MDC 1200 tone. It has it in there to allow you to do it. And that's all of the voice functions. So just below that, your key functions. This is really cool. This allows you to program. So SK1 would be this button on the side. SK2 would be the second button down. And basically, if you want to, short press it, program for what it does, all these different things you can very easily program it to do. If you want to do like a press and hold for a long press, you can program that to do something different, anything that you're going to be using regularly. And then all of the, P1, P2 buttons, and then how long you can set to how long you want your long press button time to actually be. So that is really customizable, especially on such an entry priced level radio. Just below that, we go into the display functions. You can change the color of basically literally everything on here, from the text color to the different VFO modes, different colors, to your channel modes, different colors, and basically how long you want, you want the screen to stay lit for. The one thing I have found that I didn't like this is the fact that, and also your backlit time, how long you want the time on for. One thing I don't like about this is I could not find a way to change the background color from black to white, to kind of completely reverse everything. And I will say, since we're in the display functions of this radio, this screen, in not even direct sunlight, but bright sunlight in general, it pretty much sucks. It's kind of on par with every Baofeng on the market. So that's a negative, but it is very customizable. Now, getting into the other functions. So auto power off, I don't mess with that, but if you're somebody that could, accidentally leaves the radio on and you don't want to kill your battery, you can set different time frames for the radio to automatically turn itself off. Your transmit timer, how long you want to be able to dead key that transmit button for before it automatically shuts itself off. Your predict TOT time, again, the factory is 5 seconds. I don't mess with that. Voice activation for your Vox delay. I don't do anything with voice activation. I don't worry about that. Your analog mic gain, this is good. I have mine set all the way to 5. The digital mic gain, this is good. So your enhanced levels, basically everybody complains that the mic levels on this radio are very low. And for, a little bit, they kind of are. I will tell you, the microphone on this radio is a pinpoint right here. If your mouth is not directly on this, I've noticed that your mic gain is bad. But if you're talking directly into this, I found it to be pretty standard, if not good. I'll give it, above standard to good to decent. So, like keeping your mic gain up. As far as the digital mic gain goes, these enhancements are really cool. I may do a demo on this later, but basically, I've tested this. You can have, if you have your digital mic gain on enhanced and there is a bunch of background noise behind you, this radio does a pretty good job of filtering out the background noise and just putting your voice through. So it sounds a little more digital, a little more electronic than if it was just on one of the regular levels, but it does a really good job at filtering out background noise. So I felt that was a really good menu and a good system that it has. Your frequency step, there's all your 2.55, all your standard frequency steps. Power save stuff is pretty standard. If you want to listen to the FM radio, your weather alarm. I have mine on. This is really good. I'm going to get into the weather alarm here in a second. One thing here, your squelch tail. You can put your squelch tail on, and whether you want to 55 megahertz, 120 degrees, or 180 degrees, your call there. And then obviously your analog squelch levels comes factory set at 3. I haven't changed it. That's worked fine. Now, one thing I want to point out as far as the weather alarm goes, if you come in here, when you come in a weather alarm, obviously you see I have mine set to 1, and that's fine. But how would this work? So, basically, if you know your weather alarm stuff, if you have this here, I'm in my channel mode. If I go to my VFO mode, there's the weather channel. So how would this work as a weather alert radio if there's always a channel going on? This is another thing. I could not find this buried anywhere in the programming software, but just through trial and error. If you're in your channel mode, all you want to do is come down. This comes pre-programmed apparently from Baofeng, and basically press the star button. And what that'll do is that will bring you to the NOAA weather frequencies. You can see they have NOAA channel 1 programmed in there. And basically when it's in this mode, you can see the little cloud with the exclamation point. This is the weather alert radio where, when NOAA station issues a weather alert, like a tornado warning or a flash flood advisory, it does this because, you can have this on all day long with no audio coming through, because the radio is now just listening for NOAA to put out the 1050 hertz tone, which is the trigger, and that will then allow the DM32 to allow the audio to come through. So this is a really good kind of buried feature that I figured out how to work. As you can see, there's no audio coming through. It's just the weather alert, even though there is a transmission coming through. Again, if we go to the VFO mode, there's the same frequency, but with the audio. So again, that's just by pressing the star key. Now that's the weather alert radio. So that's pretty cool. Getting back into the settings, in the radio settings, below the weather alert, is this TBST select. And this function in the DM32, this is just part of the signaling system tied to the push-to-talk ID or selective calling features. One of the two, I'm not completely sure, but most likely the TBST is standing for tone burst. So this is just a short audio tone sent at the beginning of a transmission, often used to open the squelch repeaters or even signal a specific repeater. Let me get back into here. There we go. And then basically, the TBST, and then the other half of that SEL, that's going to be selective call. And this implies the function allows you to selectively enable or configure tone burst signaling, again, possibly for specific channels or contexts. And again, this isn't a bad feature to have at all, and it's probably in there because some repeaters require a tone burst to activate. So TBST select may just let you configure which channels send that burst. It could also be for selective signaling because in analog mode, it can be used to trigger squelch opening on radios that are listening for a specific tone, or even for compatibility purposes, because if you're using the DM32 with legacy analog systems or older repeaters, this setting and that ability to have it in there might just help to bridge that gap. So that's that first block of settings. The next thing you can get into is your channel set mode. Transmit power, pretty self-explanatory, high, medium, or low. Your CTC or DCS tones is going to be, if you're on analog or digital, for basically your PL tones. The VFO save to channel was really cool. This was one of the easiest radios I have been able to figure out. Saving a channel from VFF mode, putting it into one of your actual channel modes. Really easy right off the bat. It asks you to name it, and it goes, step by step, kind of how you want to enter it in there. With that is going to be what kind of channel you want it. If it's going to be analog or digital, if it's going to be analog and digital, then you can pick the bandwidth, obviously, narrow or wide. Your optional signaling, if you want to do DTMF tones, 2 tones, 5 tones, or BDC 1200. I'm going to go through each of these when I do a video on the programming software for this radio. That'll be coming out next. Your push-to-talk ID, if you're using some sort of, this basically will do like an MDC 1200 style identification if you want it to come when you key the radio up and you want it to display on the receiving radio at that point. If you only want it to come up at the end, or if you want to do it on both, that allows you to do that. Your receiving squelch mode, basically everybody has carrier squelch. That's pretty standard. Your shift direction, if you want a positive shift, negative shift, again, pretty standard. And then the offset on your frequencies. After that, the device info, what version you're running, any information as far as you want to, display on your radio, as far as the information to it. Again, here is your DTMF tones, all of the menus specific to that, the BDC 1200, all of the menus with that, the 2-tone and the 5-tone. I'm going to go through each of those again when I do a video just on the programming software. So as far as your final menu, that's going to be your GPS menu. Obviously, if you want your GPS on or off, is your first thing you come to. Right below that, your GPS info. This has a really quick return, and it's a very accurate GPS location. So that is a really nice feature that a lot of radios kind of get delayed on some of this data that they show. That's good. You can pick your time zone. It has all of them in there. Your display format. So your first one you'll see is DDD. That's decimal degrees, and then below that, or you can pick decimals, minutes, seconds. Either one of these, it's just good to make sure that whoever you're working with, you guys are all using the same format. If not, things can get really confusing. The other thing that's kind of interesting here is in the GPS mode. So if you look here, you have GPS, you have BDS, and you have GDS, or GPS and BDS. And basically what this is, so GPS, that is the United States owned satellite constellation for global positioning systems. That's what the majority of us use. BDS, this is interesting. Again, this is in here to me because this is the GPS system that stands for Bidal Navigation Satellite System. And this is China's system. It's not in a lot of, like, if you buy a Garmin, it's not going to have China's system in there. These things are obviously coming from China, so they have it in there. They just completed their global coverage somewhat recently. So it's right up, right along with our GPS system, as well as Galileo, which is Europe's, and GLONASS, which is Russia's. So wouldn't hurt to have both in there, but are both selected. But again, you don't know what China is doing with the data. So, that one is going to be user discretion. So here's the deal. For under $100, you're getting GPS, DMR, analog, airband, no alerts, and a screen that doesn't completely suck. It's again, not perfect, but it's damn good. And even though it claims to hold that IP45 rating, and I don't know how reliable of certification that is because it's coming from a Chinese manufacturer, and that Kenwood connector along with the completely unprotected USB-C plug are just avenues for intrusion, it lasted through 2 months of absolute torture and abuse in the environments I exposed it to. So who knows, maybe in the future they should look at doing like a Motorola style connector, like the Alliance HD1, which I absolutely love that radio, and that has that style on there. But for everything you get, I'm pretty impressed. I'm going to do a separate video on the CPS and programming here shortly, so stand by for that one if you're still interested in this radio and you want to see how to kind of navigate that. And before I go, guys, I'm always saying, hey, if you need hats or if you need a shirt or whatever, but I've never actually shown all the hats we had. I got a couple of emails saying, hey, what colors do you have? How do I get one? So as usual, if you're interested in one of the hats, shoot me an email. It supports the channel, taylor@ranchstrategies.com. And as far as the hats go, as you guys know, we have this is usually the one that I wear, which is the Tropical Multicam. We also have the regular Multicam with the black mesh. You got your OD green with the black mesh. Then you got your Coyote brown with a brown mesh. The gray with a black mesh. A dark gray with the black mesh. An OD green with the tan mesh. And then finally, a navy blue with navy blue. All of them have the Ranch Strategies crosshairs on it. It says Ranch Strategies. So if you're interested in getting any of the hats, if you're interested in the shirts, I'm going to show the shirts next time as far as what they actually looked, because again, I've never shown them. Again, shoot me an email, taylor@ranchstrategies.com. The hats are $30. you can make that donation to the channel. It supports us a lot. We'll get one out to you, and they are extremely nice hats. Also, as far as upcoming training goes, we are getting our 2026 calendar already filled. It's looking like, as of this moment in time, in April, May, and June, we are going to be in Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. And in all of those states, we will be doing our canine medical course, our tactical rope operations course, and a live fire medical course. If you're interested in doing any training with us, let us know. We can set up privately or try to get you in one of the classes. If you want to do, if you want to incorporate communications into any of those classes, we can do that as well. We're also going to be, or we're talking about being in North Carolina here in the next month or two. So that's a possibility. If we're going to be in any of those states, you happen to live there, you're interested in training, again, shoot me an email, Taylor, Taylor, @ranchstrategies.com. We'll give you any info, help you out as best we can. I hope you appreciate this video, the DM32, the review of it. Guys, like I said, Baofeng hasn't sent me anything to test or demo. I bought this with my own money after the UV32. I was impressed, and I'm going to go through that CPS here shortly on the next one. So with that, until then, be safe.